And thanks for coming back. It's Saturday. I'm here with Don and Cindy. They invited me back. This is a great opportunity to share with you out there some really cutting edge type of information to be able to empower yourself with your health and well-being. And so when you do that, who has the best concerns for yourself? Yourself. I mean, you don't want to be relying on someone else, someone with a white coat, especially. As we'll talk about some of the studies, the most dangerous place to be is in a hospital, in a drug doctor's office, and so you really want to basically go outside that box.
And doctors are hit by every kind of different condition. If you just study a little bit, so much information is available on the web. Mm-hmm. You can easily know more about your condition from a health perspective than a doctor.
And as we were talking earlier, when we were all growing up, how often did you go see the doctor or go to the hospital? Zero. Mm-hmm. You'd literally have to have a broken bone to be serious. That's where things should be now. But unfortunately, Johnny or Mary has a little ache in their ear, ER room. They go to the doctor. You have a little boo-boo somewhere. There's natural things out there that basically help people be able to get well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So a kind of an interesting study. One of the fastest growing new cancers out there is esophageal cancer. Real big concern. Very deadly. The survival rate is less than 2 to 5% at best, and survival means within a year you're dead. Here, strawberries help with esophageal cancer. So people have this kind of misnomer, I'm going to go see a real doctor. I'm going to really take real drugs. Food and natural things are so powerful, people just can't wrap their head around because the drug companies have fooled people thinking is, unless some guy in a chemistry lab puts this together, all this stuff is a joke. Well,
it's a new high priest class.
It is.
That we have to give our will over to.
Mm-hmm. What percentage did you say? What percentage of prescription drugs
40%
are derived
of
from
all
plants?
drugs on the market have their origin from herbs. And as I've both told Cindy and Don here, is the drug companies have a vast army of botanists and other types of people going out into the Amazon, into the rainforest to find unique type of compounds because they've kind of exhausted everything. Nature has created incredible type of compounds. So they've gone to shamans in the Amazon and they've asked them, what do you do for this kind of condition? Skin cancer. Oh, well, we take this bark over here and we rub that and it goes away. Just like there's a compound, there's a special tuber or a potato from Australia. For basal cell and squamous cell, you put this on, 100% success rate of the skin cancer going on.
We have to wait until the chemical companies can package it and make the money from it, and then we can get it through our healthcare.
So where do they find that out? Oh, they asked the Aborigines who've been using it for 40,000 years. What do? They go get this, they dig this little tuber out, this little potato, rub it on their skin because they didn't have the luxury of using, SPF, 7,000 and having stuff like that. They're out in the Australian outback, like that. Why don't they all be dying of skin cancer?
Isn't it true that putting that stuff on can actually increase the risk of skin cancer?
Yes, sunblocks can, exactly right. And because you have a false security of thinking that you have this magic cape on, if you really read the directions, a lot of the chemicals that can actually cause that, or what happens is you apply it on and you think you're good for the rest of the day. It only works for about an hour and a half, and so now you've gone out there, overexposed yourself, and because of the oxidative stress, causes a different type of disorder. And we've talked about a great product out there. So strawberries, and where'd that come from? That only came from, where was that? Wake Forest? Yeah, Ohio State Comprehensive Cancer Center in Columbus.
And when we're talking about natural cures and using food to treat the body,
right,
don't we have to be concerned about getting foods that don't have chemicals in them themselves?
Well, that's the best. This study here, I'm sure they didn't use organic. These are drug doctors. They're, once again, as you guys were talking about, vets have probably had 10,000 times more nutritional. Myself and my colleagues probably have 10 trillion times more information like that. No, but this is just probably just a strawberry extract that they got. So, yeah, I would definitely go even further in terms of using organic and more natural type things. Freeway pollution causes brain damage. So that was a new study that came out at University of Southern California. Is that people just say, my mother just got cancer and she never smoked and I don't know where that came from. Well, our environment. You don't have to be exposed to that kind of direct stuff.
What about things like putting a negative ion generator in your car to be able to purify the air?
It does, because what that does, and that's what this article goes about, is that it's not so much the chemicals, it's the particulate. they're 1/1000th of the thickness of a hair. These little particles are toxic going, and what an ion generator does is put a charge to that and makes it fall to the ground so that you don't breathe it. So those are great. I have one in my car.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get one.
And they're pretty expensive. You can get them for like, $10 or $20, and they're really kind
I
of
thought
good.
it was more like
That's
50 or something. But
Well, maybe they are
depending
going
on what you
up.
get.
Mine's about 15, 20 years old,
Yeah,
so
we gotta
probably
check your
go up.
source. Yeah.
Right, things gotta go up like that. So that's where you really have to take charge. And then before we started on here, I was seeing some patients. We talked about Marin County has one of the highest breast cancer rates, and we actually have a little chart there showing that. And what's the current thinking is it's lifestyle changes. Lifestyle that causes that. So that's
Things like plastic surgery and
Yeah.
Botox and
just being around lots of chemicals. Even though they have lots of money, they use a lot of caustic things. I was at this party in San Francisco with other doctors, and the host there was just using like Lysol. Lysol is very toxic. I mean, that's just
Wow.
garbage. I mean, it's more toxic than what you're trying to do here. Here's a study that showed that meditation is at least 100% more effective than actually morphine. So this is from Wake Forest Medical
Amazing.
School. Yeah,
for
well,
pain treatment.
for pain treatment. So calming your mind, there's different types of biofeedback, meditation, prayer. These are all things that are able to induce a state where we're able to produce our own pain-killing type of compounds
That's
called
great.
endorphins and kephalins, which are 1,000 times or 1,000% stronger than morphine.
I know you use Holosync. I just had that treatment.
That's
Does
exactly
that
right.
tie in
That
with
does.
the
That has been shown to have correlate in terms of releasing these chemicals that reduces stress, but also once again release these chemicals and make you feel better. And these are 1,000% stronger, and that's what this particular type of study using advanced technology called functional MRIs. We're actually able to see the brain working. But what was interesting here is that we found a big effect, about 40% reduction in pain and 57% in reduction. Meditation produced a greater reduction in pain than even morphine, a
That's
narcotic,
amazing.
which typically reduces ratings by only 25%.
That's
Holosync, acupuncture, Skinar have been shown to work way better than that. But once again, people think, well, I'm really in pain, I have to take a drug, and it's just not, the science doesn't support it.
And it's not addictive.
And it's not addictive. Oh, shucks.
Well, it is addictive.
But
it's a good addiction.
It's a good way. And that's the problem. The drug companies want you to be addicted because now you're a lifelong user of this,
Absolutely.
and they got money coming in.
Absolutely.
As we've talked about before about some things being done in terms of helping protect yourself for the Japanese radiation there, is part of the deception are two factors. One is they're focused on iodine, and we've talked about some things like that. That only has a half-life of 8 years. What you really be thinking about, as we've talked about, that's what's the beauty of these other natural products like seaweeds and miso, is the other type of radioactive isotopes like cesium-137, uranium-238, plutonium, strontium-90. These also go into your body, and so when you take potassium iodine, it only blocks one part of it. That's when it goes to. And so there's a nice article here about that, the cesium deception. That's why the government and the media just keep focusing on iodine, because they can say, well,
It's something they can sell.
well, they can sell, and two is, is it of the evils, it's lesser of the evils, because it has a quick half-life like that. So the other issue is that, which has been going on, is that in this article here, is that eating radioactive food is far more dangerous than nuclear fallout, because it has to do with the inverse square law. Is as when you get radioactivity inside your cell, the distance between the radioactivity and the cell are once again very, very small. So that increases the toxic factor, whereas the further you're away of this source, the less it is. So by having it inside your body, just kind of common sense, makes it a lot more toxic.
Wow.
So by eating this food, it can actually be worse than being exposed to it outside.
One of the things that I've been doing, as I mentioned to you, that ties in here is that drinking bentonite clay.
Which is great.
A tablespoon a day before I go to bed.
Long-term
Blend
traditional.
it up.
There's French green type of clay. There's all kinds of traditional ancient wisdom use these different types of soils as whatever they found as a way of cleansing and protecting their body from the different types of toxic things, which thousands of years ago was bad, but now it's like 10 trillion times worse than that. So that's kind of interesting. So the basic theme today is so what's the most dangerous thing out there? Heart disease, cancer, or medical drugs and procedures?
Stay away from hospitals.
Well, not only, but just straight away from drugs and surgery. But
Yeah.
So a landmark study just came out that 33% of the people going into a hospital are hurt or killed.
Oh my gosh.
Hear that again. Out of 100 people, 33 people will be hurt or killed.
Oh.
in
Now,
a
I
hospital.
work in a hospital.
my.
Does that mean that in IT, if I go in there 10 times, I have I might die like 3 times?
Well, actually, you being in there, it's like going to a toxic waste dump. You are exposing yourself to pathogens. We know conclusively that, most of the bugs that we're worried about are caused from hospitals. So when you go into a hospital, you are one, around sick people.
I'm fortunate. I work in a building
Well, that is
that's
fortunate.
separate. So.
And two is that you're exposing yourself to different toxins. We talked about that chemotherapy is now considered a toxin, which it is.
Mhm.
They use, once again, people around it, which would be common sense, but I mean, that's how dumb, medical doctors are. They thought that since they're so special, they could give this crap to people. Well, now they're finding out there's a backlash. They're dying of cancer.
Mhm.
The nurses, the pharmacists, and now they have to handle this stuff like toxic waste, which it is.
Wow.
So if your doctor puts on a biohazard suit,
Exactly.
you might have a little reason to be concerned.
Well, and you wonder why, gee, doc, if this is so good, why are you so concerned? And show me the science that this works. Oh, that's right, they don't have any.
Well, what is the 33%? What are some, could you just give some examples of some of the causes of death
Well,
in
we've
that?
talked a little bit on my YouTube like that, is the madness is this crazy. 200 or 300 years ago, maybe a couple hundred years, Dr. Lester discovered that, gee, when doctors would work on cadavers and then walked over and worked on women giving babies, they would die of infections. So, God forbid, you wash your hands, and that's how basic. That took about 50 years for the medical profession to get. Dirty hands kills people. Well, here we are, 2010, study came out. How many people are killed in the hospital and from doctors all around per year because they don't even know how to wash their hands? 100,000 people are murdered per year because they don't even understand from when they were 5 years old. Their mommy and daddy told them, wash your hands after you use, go to the bathroom.
But it's also more complex because you get these MRSA bacteria, and they have generated into highly resistant forms because they use these antibacterial washers.
And antibiotics, exactly. They've created these monsters, they themselves. And so
and there's good reason to suspect that they knew that would happen when they did that.
So to answer, so washing, they don't wash their hands. Bed sores kill hundreds of thousands of people a year. We'll call it like that.
Wow.
Because they don't have, once again, the understanding that they have to rotate. When you lay down for long periods of time, that pressure causes your skin to start to basically be hurt. That causes sores that become infected. They die.
My.
Plus the medication. Oops, we gave Mary too much, she died.
Or the
How
wrong
about,
one.
Or the wrong one, exactly. Or doing procedures. When you do surgery, there's what's called risk versus benefit. Some surgeries have the death rate of, out of 100 people, 13 people die from it.
Wow.
So
Why do people accept those odds?
Because they're just, once again, sheeple. They walk around mindless, thinking that whatever some drug doctor or you go to the hospital, they know best. And like I said, people need to go on the internet and saying, okay, Dr. Smith, why are you giving me? There's no science. I went to a kind of a neighborhood networking dinner in San Francisco, and there was a psychiatrist there. And I was just happening to talking, and I was trying to be pleasant. And there was a naturopath. Well, I tried to be. I'm not trying to always fight. But, there was a woman naturopath, and he was really getting on it. Where's the double-blind placebo studies about using turmeric? And I said, well, there are, and I'll be happy to email them. But do you know how to read? Okay. Second thing is that, doctor, you give me the randomized controlled double-blind crossover studies about SSRIs that you give out every day. I said, I'll be happy to. Well, I'll save you some time. There aren't any. And when they do, basically they show there's no better than placebo. So don't give me this.
Or you get this negative backlash years later when you block all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and that causes the violent behavior.
Suicide, depression itself, side effects.
So you're creating the problem that you're claiming to solve.
Absolutely. But so he backed off because he knew he didn't have that shit. He just thought because he's an MD,
I can say double-blind study.
Okay, bullshitter.
What's a double-blind study, sir?
Okay, double-blind. Well, a double-blind crossover study is where the doctor doesn't know which one is real. The patient does, because there is, both in natural medicine and in medicine, is that the mind has a very strong influence on what happens. So if the doctor says, okay, Cindy, this is a real, the drug rep just came in, he paid for my vacation in Hawaii, $7,000, and they told
How
me.
nice for you.
I know, it was great. So I'm really jazzed about this because, I'm able to get a kickback. Oh, I mean, get educational information back like that. Because in New Jersey it's called a bribe, but for, in drug
Because you want to help me,
yeah,
right?
I want to help you. And so obviously you've gone to this doctor, you want to get better, and so there's that's called the influence factor, perception like that.
Sure.
So they've known that for quite some time, and that would be fine. I mean, I have no problem with placebo effects, but when the drugs cost $200-300 a month, and like Don said, causing billions of dollars of side effects, then why not just give them an herb or something, or give them something natural or something like that? That'll be a lot better. At least save us money, and people wouldn't be hurt. So that's a double blind. Then what they do is a crossover. They want to be able to follow the drug and make sure it is working, so that even with that blind there's still maybe some other types of perception thing. So they use codes. So say A is the positive thing that they're trying to do, and B is the placebo. So they do A for about 8 to 12 weeks. And then they cross over and they bring it to the other group that would have placebo. And that's exactly what they should see. They should see the responses change like that. So the placebo, which again should have very little benefit, and then all of a sudden they give the drug, goes up, and then the one, or the drug or the natural thing, and then with the natural thing, when they start up, it should go better. And when they cross it over to with the person who has the placebo, it should go down. So that's what a double-blind placebo crossover study is. Well, they've done, once again, as I told this quack, the psychiatrist, is that when they've done this study, and the last one which was the largest one done, showed that there was no better benefit than placebo. So one, I think it's fraud.
Wow.
It's fraud. You're causing people to pay good money through their insurance and stuff for stuff that's no better than placebo. That's quackery.
That's
there should be
astonishing.
full disclosure where they're
Yeah.
required to tell you about studies like
So
that.
after that talk, he never said anything bad to any other, because most of the people there were other chiropractors and naturopaths and stuff like that. And I said, hey, I think his name was Bob. Bob, come on my TV show. We'll do this live. So you can't edit it. You can't kind of give them any bullshit, because I'm going to bring in with the studies. A Harvard study, medical study, says you're a liar. John Hopkins says you're a liar. So what's going on here? Where'd you go to school? Yeah, you didn't go to John Hopkins or Harvard. So these are your peers saying that basically this is all quackery. So those days are gone.
You have to be able to
when they
sift
can bully.
between
Well, they
the
bully
truth.
people. They think, okay, I'm a medical doctor. Sure, you're smart.
And you went through
Well, you've jumped through some
the
hoops.
mind control program that made you
Going to
have an
medical
inflated
school.
ego to be able to dominate
Well,
people.
going to medical school or any professional, like we talked about, is going to the military. They try to break you and then remold you. So it's not that you're a bad person, but they've actually done studies, which is kind of sad about this. Medical students go into medical school because, I want to help people. 4 years later, they don't want to help people. They want to make a lot of money. So they break people.
And can you talk a little bit about how the trauma, what they actually go through that does
Well, they
break them?
beat you up. I mean, I remember going to school at Rutgers. I mean, this is just prerequisites, where the professor for organic chemistry for the 15 minutes told us about how stupid we were. So they just really beat down on your self-esteem, and when you go into the professions, you have to pretty much kind of, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make the professor mad, because maybe he or she will fail you. Maybe you'll get a bad grade. So there's that constant fear that you just regurgitate the same crap that goes out there. And all the great thinkers have said that, like Albert Einstein and people with Nobel Prize, the biggest problem is that these quantum jumps occur not by gradual type of learning, is people have to think outside because all you're doing is status quo. It's like washing a hand. That took over almost 100 years for them to accept that washing hands was the cause, because the dogma is that germs weren't really understood.
Yeah.
And that's the same dogma. Chemotherapy is good. Any science? Chemotherapy is good. They don't answer the question. They just, once again, they're parrots.
They don't
They're
think outside
puppets.
the box.
They
And
can't
all
think
the
of-
breakthroughs throughout history have come
Absolutely.
from thinking outside the box.
You
I
have-
ran into a great example
Yes.
this week that I'll just toss out here, but maybe talk more about online, about a guy that is, his background is computer programming and working in
Yeah.
IT. So, see, he's become, like me, very rigorous in terms of not making any assumptions that you're not able to test, because you very quickly learn working with computers, they're very unforgiving.
Right.
You think something's going to work and it doesn't work, well, you got to find out why.
Right.
And science is supposed to be like that because we have this herd mentality,
That's right.
we get away from questioning things. And so he started questioning the makeup of the Earth as it relates to earthquakes, as it relates to
Yeah.
the ability of seismographs to pick up waves on the other side. And he actually found out through scientific modeling and studies and different models of the Earth that this commonly held view of the solid Earth and the differences in the density of the core of the Earth were not as good an explanation of the way that things behave
Right.
as it relates to earthquakes, seismic waves, and a whole bunch of other stuff, as is a hollow Earth. Very, very interesting. Now, this is a guy thinking outside the box.
Right.
And very interesting to listen to him think and process this stuff. Obviously a very intelligent person.
Right.
But this is the kind of thinking that you're talking about.
One of the products we've talked about before, which we're all excited about, Protandim, and Dr. McCord, who's the discoverer of SOD, this very special thing. In one of the tapes there, which is really kind of good, I mean, a good scientist, that's what he was saying, doesn't try to prove his hypothesis correct. He tries to disprove it.
Exactly.
He tries to keep
That's
tearing
excellent.
it down, and it keeps maintaining itself, tearing it down.
Right.
But unfortunately, what's happening, especially in the drug companies, all they're worried about is, once again, trying to get the end results. I don't care how we get there.
Exactly.
This drug helps this person, cha-ching, because it makes a lot of money. And that was we're very clear with the Vilox.
Yeah.
Here's one drug that killed more people, murdered more people. Get that? Murdered more people
If they know what
than the
happened.
Vietnam
That's
War.
exactly
That's what it
right.
is.
So here's a war for 7 years,
Astonishing.
and one drug did that. And what they found out when they started suing these assholes, can I say that? No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not censored.
That's good. Is that they found out they didn't do science. They did basically the Chinese restaurant approach. They did 7 studies. 6 of them showed it caused heart attacks and death. And one they were able to get a little little benefit there, not real science. And then they went on that one.
Yeah.
And that's how they marketed this program. And that's how it killed all these people.
Yeah.
And that was just one drug.
I went to school in science long enough ago to learn the real scientific method. And I
That's
apply
right.
that every day
Absolutely.
when working with computers.
Because it
You have
works.
to.
It works.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
And isn't there a equation they use or something to figure out when they put something on the market, they know that they'll have a certain amount of lawsuits,
You're talking about
and they charge enough for the product
That's right.
so that they
Offset
can
those.
cover the lawsuits and still make a profit.
Ford did that way back. I mean, we're so when the Corvair was it? No, it was a Pinto. Pinto, they made a engineering fault
It
where
blew up.
blew up people and killed people. But they
Yeah.
actually figured out, let's see, if we had to come back, it's going to cost us $13 billion to replace it. It's only going to cost us $1 billion for all these people being killed. We'll go with the $1 billion. That's how these
They
people
weigh
think.
the cost of the recall.
It's same
versus
as with the drugs. You know, we know that this is going to kill and hurt and maim people.
certain percentage of people.
And that's just part of doing business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just bullshit.
So the cost of doing business is your life.
Well, and that's a tragedy. So maybe there is something, so horrific out there that they need to take the risk. That's a sadness. There are natural things that have no risk, cost thousands of times less, and works better.
What's the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm.
Exactly. But once again, no, first, make a lot of money. That's what it's all about. It's
That's where
change
we're
like
gonna
that.
come.
So
That's
it's,
the hypocritical.
no, that's the Forbes oath, in your financial. It's all bottom line. So you're talking about that. So here's a kind of a review about the things. This was 5 years ago. Medical errors kill 420,000 people a year. Now a bigger issue is, not a bigger issue, is just as serious is the cost of this stuff. We've gone bankrupt in lots of different factors but medical sickness is one of the biggest. On my TV show, and as I talk about the reviews and analysis, not done by chiropractors and naturopaths and herbalists and, Don and Cindy like that. These are people like, Dr. Garson, former president of the medical school at Virginia. Now he's a vice president. He stated that, medicine waste $1 trillion. That's with a T, $1 trillion. So wrap your head around a trillion. Let's go.
But that doesn't cost me anything because my insurance pays
exactly, and that's exactly right. Well, it does. That's put on a credit card. Our grandkids and great grandkids are going to have to pay for our greed and selfishness like that and corruption like that. But let's wrap our head around $1 trillion. So 1 million seconds is about 12 years. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years.
Oh my goodness.
So when we were growing up, $1 million, $1 million is a big deal. Now it's like $1 million is like, like finding a penny on the ground. It's like nothing. I mean, everybody wish they had that. The other example I use is that in 6 years of just saving the waste and abuse that medicine does, which would be $6 trillion, everybody in the United States could have a free home.
Oh
So
my
what would you rather
goodness.
have? Bullshit that doesn't work, kills people and hurts people, and costs $1.3 trillion, or in 6 years of that, taking that money, everybody could have a free home.
Free home.
Free home, exactly.
Yeah.
So
It's settled then.
that's right. So bed sores kill 115,000 people a year. I mean, that's just madness. Can you imagine the airlines every year saying, yeah, we try to do the best we can, but we kill about 115,000 people. They'd be closed down
my goodness.
now. That's right, not tomorrow, now. But the drug companies, once again, are allowed to go along with this bullshit.
Because they're
It's
doctors.
all a wide
They know
variety of
best.
stuff, so it's not like in one bucket so people can
Right.
see it. It's dispersed throughout the whole system.
Here's one of my famous, there's been constant studies like that. Every time you go into the hospital, you think, well, gee, people are sick there, there's under a lot of stress. That's where probably the best nutrition in the world is. Because they know that nutrition helps people with faster recovery, less complications. Not so. There's been studies showing that when people go in there, 40% come out malnourished.
Oh.
And that kills how many? 108,800 people a year.
What?
108,000 because eating Jell-O and crap doesn't make you healthy.
Well, and they don't like you to take your supplements
Oh,
there either.
God,
You
don't
go
do
in the
that.
hospital with supplements.
Exactly.
Uh-uh.
Because they want to kill 108,000 people a year. Unnecessary procedures. I mean, that's a constant thing, where I've talked about, there's an orthopedic tooth down studies where people, once again, their knee, it hurts and they do an x-ray and it's degenerated. God forbid you try to reverse that naturally. Now that technology is there. They do this surgical procedure, this knee surgery, that has been shown to be no better than...
I saw that, the ACL thing. I
That's
saw that
exactly.
on your counter, and I actually had that condition,
Uh-huh.
and they tried to evaluate whether or not
You needed
that
surgery?
I needed the
Right.
surgery, and they ended up saying, well, you can go for a while and see if it's better. And after a while, I went back to, I think it was a different doctor, because I changed jobs and whatever. And they tested, they couldn't figure out which knee had ACL. Because I couldn't remember.
I got it. All that is bullshit. It's all bullshit. But once again, that generates a $5 billion just that procedure alone. So I mean, surgeons make lots of money, and they're one of my
In
favorite.
sports injury, that's a key procedure in sports injuries, surgeries. That's
Yeah.
a lot of money
Yeah.
there.
Well, we have a mutual friend that has an inguinal hernia. I mean, your choices are going out and spend $15,000. He chose a program that I'm using, which was just substantially less, and it's healing.
That's the laser procedure.
Yeah, right. Laser and using
non-invasive.
natural nutrients that help with oxidative stress and helps increase your stem cells and helps with healing. Yeah, that happens all the time. Now there is a place, once again, as we talked about. Medicine has a great place in what's called acute care trauma. They're really great with, if I get a bullet through my head, I don't want to put a, Protandim on there. I mean, they're really good with that. Like the soldiers I work with in Yountville, a tank rolls over their legs. Yeah, they need intervention. After that, then that's when they need, basically these things that actually heal the body, not just, once again, numb things by taking pain pills or giving crap that shouldn't be doing there that has little or no benefit or has side effects. So it should be a really integrated system, but once again, it's a monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
The medical profession and the drug industry has created a 99.97% monopoly. Like, it's our way or no way.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about other type of systems. I mean, if you don't do something like that, then you're a nut, you're a quack, or we're going to arrest you. No, you're the quack, you're the murderer,
That's
and
right.
let's turn it around. And here's the proof, here's the science. So it's not
That's
just
amazing.
once again, you like blue, I like red. It doesn't. That's something we can do.
It's not just a preference.
Well, we can agree to be different like that, but we're talking about life and death.
That's
we're talking
right.
about science here. So.
Yeah. Great.
So let me just start to tell you how I really feel about this. So with your website and trying and other people out there, that's the last frontier: talk radio and the internet. And where are they trying to stop this? Talk radio and the internet. They don't want this information out here. And so that's the struggle. And so hopefully people will waken up so that people will start to make changes. We've seen a little bit of that in the last election. People are coming at least questioning. We have, someone, look at the Federal Reserve. There's nothing federal about it, and there's nothing reserved about it.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's once again, it's a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it's criminal. But so now people are starting to think outside the box and look into these entities that were created back in the 30s for not for our best interest, but for wealthy and powerful people that want to keep it that way. Little off the topic of health.
Take responsibility
Exactly.
for your health.
On
all
Bottom
aspects.
line, don't put your
Well, not
welfare in the hands of
your
somebody
health,
else.
politics, liberty, freedom. You have to take responsibility.
grown up.
It's about responsibility.
Be a grown up,
Yeah.
exactly
Don't be a
right.
child.
Exactly right. Don't wait for someone else. Oh, so, I'll wait until I'm 65 and get Medicare. No, take charge right now. You
That's
don't
what
need
America
Medicare.
is supposed to be about. We're supposed to be about a people that said, we don't want a king. We don't
Exactly.
want somebody to rule over us.
That's right.
We want to make our own decisions.
Right.
We're a republic. We'll have representatives
Right.
that execute
Self-determined.
our choices.
Right.
So we've gotten away from that. We need to get back to that.
And that, once again, that's what health is. It's a multifactorial thing. It has to do with lifestyle things, but it also has to do with social things, political things, spiritual things. Those are all make up health. So even though you're trying to eat well, and then you have a dictator that's basically causing stress, you're never going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So you
That's
have
right.
to be able to go against this fascist type of approach, and that's exactly what we're doing. Fascism look it up. It's not some abstract type of thing back in World War II. It's happening right now.
Absolutely.
Where special interest corporations are once again dictating what takes place in our government. That's fascism. And that's happening right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Special interest groups are making, whether that's a drug company, it's some type genetic modified type of food that they create these special type of patented Monsanto, right? Exactly. And a poor little farmer goes over there and they bust them because they're infringing on their patent. And
I got an idea for a website. We should put up this little sign that says, "This machine kills fascists."
I like it.
I think it's an old Pete Seeger's
.com?
thing.
I like it. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks again for inviting me on, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thanks. That was fun.